Welcome back to Time Sweeps. I'm your host, Wyatt.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Gary, and today we're discussing the unsolved mysteries of our world. Or worlds. And we're back.
Hello.
So, we thought it'd be fun to talk about some conspiracies and different theories that people have come up with over the years. I've compiled a list of some of my favorites. Gary's come up with some of his. And Connor doesn't really seem like he's that much into conspiracies, because in reality, they're useless.
Yeah,
most of them are absolutely
they're
useless.
They're fun to look at.
They're hilarious sometimes.
I honestly just, I like coming in unprepared and like just riffing sometimes, because I
hold on. I kind of like that. I like that thinking. So me and Gary can go talk about some conspiracy theories, and I'm sure you've definitely heard some of the things we're gonna say.
Yeah.
You could just give your your opinion on what you hear and how you feel
what
about
I've heard
it,
about them,
what you've postulated.
Yeah.
Connor is the truth bringer of this entire episode.
Yeah.
In lies Connor, the truth and the secrets of the universe given to us.
He's our Mr. Miyagi, so.
AKA the no BS.
All right, do you want to start or should I start? I think you should start.
Uh-oh.
Whoa, my gosh, you broke it. Pause.
Copyright claim.
All right, so I do have a list right here. I could start out with things that are a little bit more,
Start off with like the one that you think is the most able to you think actually happened. Yeah.
That means I'm probably starting with my favorite because it did happen.
Okay.
It's proven.
Okay.
That is Operation Paperclip.
Okay, I've heard the name before, but
I'm going to read off. I actually did a presentation for this junior year, and I actually just took out some of the points I had in the presentation for it. It ended up, the class was not it wasn't an honors class, I'll put it that way. And some of the kids, it just absolutely, it was like, wait, we did what? Yeah, so it's not really that mind-blowing if you really think about it. But secret United States intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. for government employment after the end of the Second World War, between 1945 and 1959.
okay.
So we brought in all these different Nazis, card-carrying, Jew-hating Nazis, into the U.S. to do all these jobs for us.
Well, this is kind of this inspired some Captain America stuff as well with Hydra stuff.
Yeah.
This event,
it
inspired.
was a huge conspiracy theory for a lot of people.
Right.
Because the United States government was very much like the idea of, oh, these were the good Germans. It's okay. They were the good Germans.
They were the ones that didn't do the killing. They were the one that supplied the people who did the killing with the means of doing it.
Right.
So they're not bad.
And willingly went with it.
Right.
There was a woman by the name of Annie Jacobson. She actually came out with a book, the author of the book Operation Paperclip. This popularized the conspiracy after she brought out a lot of the stuff, the information, compiled it into one much more readable book than a bunch of government disclosed documents. And on the reality, it was very on the nose. There's a lot of secret ones, but very on the nose. The only thing was that you couldn't look up a lot of pictures of these people because, some of these pictures were taken in Germany in the 1930s, and you lived in America, or somewhere, not even that. And if you lived in some of the areas of Germany after the war, you were kind of in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So you couldn't exactly just look up some of this stuff. Wernher von Braun, he helped us get to the moon. He became
Well, I want to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
He became part of the Nazi Party. He was technical chief of the Pina... It's hard for me to actually pronounce this one, and I took a few German classes. Peenemünde facility, which is where I'm just going to say it in English, the vengeance weapon.
Oh?
It became known as the V2 rocket. That is where it was created under Wernher von Braun. The actual word is Vergeltungswaffe. Zwaffe. Tungswaffe. Vergeltungswaffe. Yeah.
Look, I am your Waffe.
But it translates to vengeance weapon. Very, very comforting teddy bear-like name.
Right,
You know?
yeah. Watch it have been like a teddy bear.
One warm teddy bear.
One warm teddy bear.
But, like, yeah, imagine that. Like, the German word to me sounds nicer than the actual, like, translation. But after the war, the U.S. brought von Braun to help NASA with the space race. He helped build the Apollo 11 rocket and mission. There's actually a movie. A lot of people call it heartwarming. A lot of people like it. It's called October Sky.
Oh, yeah?
It's about a West Virginian coal mining kid, and he wanted to. He wrote
Jake
a letter.
Gyllenhaal.
Yes. Was it actually? I don't know.
It was Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah.
Is that really?
I
Jake
think so.
Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, Jake
Man.
Gyllenhaal played them.
But
The lead.
He writes a letter to Wernher von Braun, who's in Florida with, NASA. I believe it was Florida. That part's not important. And he gets to go look at rockets and help and talk to Wernher von Braun and stuff. So if you really break down the plot by everything that happens in reality, kid is working underage in a coal mine, writes a letter to a Nazi, gets to go to Florida and look at rockets.
With the Nazi.
With a Nazi. But we also hired other people, like this guy. Oh, and von Braun, if you look up pictures of him, you can find pictures of him with Rudolf Hess, who was basically the vice prime minister of Germany for a while, from like 33 to 41. And yeah, he was, Hitler's right hand.
Right.
Pictures of them taken at a Norwegian facility where they produced heavy water, which was supposed to be used on nuclear bombs. They never got that far. But there was also General Reinhard Gehlen, former head of the Nazi intelligence operations on the USSR. We kept him employed under U.S. paperwork after, the war. We inducted him, and later on we even incorporated him into the CIA once we officially had the CIA.
Wasn't that the OSS before?
Yes.
Okay.
But hired by the U.S. Army, then became the CIA for that part specific thing, and he operated 600 ex-Nazi agents in the Soviet Union. So we had 600 agents under our payroll, under his payroll.
Right.
Which,
getting paid
we
double.
were supplying.
Right.
And they did a lot of spying for us in the Eastern Germany.
There's actually a really interesting YouTube video. I'll try to remember to remind Wyatt to link it below. But it's this lady who was like a head of cosmetics at the CIA during like the Cold War time. I know we're skipping ahead a few decades, but it's like really interesting to see how they did things back even like that far ago. Like we're not, it's not World War II times, but it's the Cold War's time. Like it's really interesting to watch. I'll try to remind you. I think it was a Wired video. So like,
Yeah. I saw it.
Oh, but yeah, this guy, he was actually in charge of the agents until only 1948, really.
Okay.
So he wasn't in charge for that long. But it went to CIA director Roscoe Hillenkotter, assumed the control of the Gehlen organization. This was everything that happened under Operation Paperclip is an actual situation. There's a show on Prime that's based on it called Hunters. It's not very factual. But these Nazis were actually hired by the U.S. government to do a lot of our dirty work. And we're not exclusive. The Soviet Union did it too, but at least we gave them a plea deal. And that plea deal was, well, you either work with the Russians, die, or you come with us and live an okay life.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of Nazis did make it away without this program. Some of them did get plea deals, but they weren't, scientists or anything. They just got to come to the States. Like, a bunch of guys, they were found in, like, Wisconsin.
Really?
Supposedly there was a man down on your way to Northtown. I don't want to vilify like a business, so I'm just going to say it like that.
Right.
But supposedly he was a Nazi and he was under investigation by Israeli authorities within our lifetime, technically.
Right, yeah.
Or just before we were even born. So
that's so crazy.
Like, he was down the street from us, technically, in a way. In our lifetime.
There was this man who like had like you might remember this. It was like I saw it somewhere, and it was like he had like suits that like Hitler wore.
Yeah,
and like
down in Brazil.
Rio.
He was in Rio.
His
apartment was a miniature Nazi museum.
Right, that's what it was.
He had suits, full suits, not just like pieces of suits.
Like full suits,
full belt and shoulder garter, Hitler uniforms,
even boots, like
full boots,
right,
full ammunition,
and like
from the 40s in pristine condition.
Yeah, I was about to say that, like crazy, like good condition.
Guns in prime condition. The man was a Nazi fanboy.
Right.
And he did his job. He kept everything really clean.
Uh-huh.
He did an absolute, in terms of like museum work, he did an amazing job. It just so
Right.
happened to be literally Hitler.
Literally.
The man probably, like, these suits were so pristine, you probably could have found...
Dandruff.
I was about to say something way different.
I have saved you. Dandruff.
Dandruff.
Dead
There
skin particles.
Yeah, that's what we'll say. Anyway, you want to take it away with one connecting from there? Like,
Well,
you
so-
mentioned the moon here.
Right. So
Or
one of the
space.
most like common like conspiracies is that the moon landing was fake. Or at least the moon landing that we got to see on like broadcasted live to all of America when we went up there back in the day, you know. And I think it's so funny. So like what if like I'm not going to deny we've been to the moon before.
Yeah.
Like us as a species, us as a
Yeah, the
like,
evidence
we've-
is fully there.
right, we've been to the moon before. But like was the actual moon landing like that could have been staged at that point.
Like the actual film.
Like the actual I'm not saying like the moon landing, like we probably did go to the moon landing when they say we did. But
Like the video footage.
right, but the video footage was fake. Like like if you don't think we've been to the moon by now, you know how many rockets like go into space that are like weekly? Like
With a telescope, you can look at some of the stuff we've left there, and even technically, you can do this. And I hate that, like, the first time I remember seeing someone say this, and then I had to look it up to be proven. You can actually reflect a laser at the right point and have a reflection come back to you
Right.
from metallic objects that we've left there.
Mhm.
And I got that from Big Bang
Big Bang Theory. I was about to say
And
they
I was
did that
just-
on Big
I
Bang.
was like, I saw that when I was younger. I was like, there's no way that's like you can do that. Apparently, you can actually do that.
That's so cool. How cool is that?
I would love to do it.
Right.
It takes a lot more, you
And
know.
we have to have a lot more powerful of a laser.
Yeah. It takes a lot of capabilities that I'm not quite
Right.
equipped for
Equipped for
mentally.
exactly. Yeah, it's just like there's a very good chance that the filming itself was fake because like people have been cherry picking at that footage for years now, like going over every detail, and like people are continuously finding faults with that footage.
Like
But,
what?
well, like someone was talking about like the Earth not being in the right spot in it, which I'm like,
Nah.
but then like a lot of people were talking about like how the footage just slowed down and stuff, like and like they went by it like by frame and stuff. I don't know. I'm not saying I believe this, but I'm just like relaying the information, right? Because like it's what it is.
It's a very popular theory.
Yeah, right, and it's like probably one of the most popular in the United States, or maybe the world. I don't know. I'm just like going off of like what I see on like memes and stuff.
There's a lot of people I've seen, and like what's funny about that is that particular theory is what kicked off a huge amount. Like conspiracy theories have always existed.
Right, exactly.
That one was really brought to the forefront with a Fox News broadcast of people
Really?
saying that we didn't make it there. I don't know if that happened in the 90s or if before, or like we were already alive, but I know my dad has certainly talked about it. It was like everything would be different if that broadcast didn't happen, and then everybody had a theory.
Yeah, if Tuk Tuk didn't talk about it, then
Well,
everything
yeah,
would be
but
fine.
I think it might have been before he was even there, maybe.
Really?
I think so.
I mean,
I don't know how long he's worked there.
He's been there for a long time.
I just know that like this was like, you know, it was done in like a docu-series type style where they were
Right.
just like, this is what actually happened on the moon. And, you know, and it like has the same quality of some dude with a camera going up the street and just shouting,
Just,
this
like-
is a
and,
certified
moving-
hood classic.
And then moving the camera around like, whoa!
It's like, yeah, we actually faked the moon. It's like, sir, please show whatever documentation you have that you worked with the government.
Right.
Because if you're just saying this, you'd be dead by now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'd be wiped off the side of the earth. If this was true, they either have highly instated the idea that people are going to think that you're a kook, and dang, they were right, or you should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're outrunning the U.S. government.
It's impossible.
There's very few things that you can't outrun. Light, the U.S. government,
Sound.
sound.
Chuck Norris.
Well, and see, like piggybacking
Can't
off of
outrun
the
Chuck Norris.
piggybacking off of the fake moon landing, there's a large percentage of people that think the Earth is flat still.
Which is
so dumb.
So yeah.
So like my whole thing with the Earth is flat thing is one, well, if you go up high enough, you can see the curvature of the Earth, and two, why would the government have to hide that from us?
Right.
Why would any government in the world have to hide that from us?
If that was the way that it actually was, they're like,
what
well,
benefit are they getting?
They're control. It's all about control.
What control? What are they controlling?
What are they controlling? What do they want us to? They don't want you to go over the edge. Yeah, I don't want to go over.
Yeah,
the
I don't
edge.
want to fall into that endless void of space. If that's your theory,
let's say the Earth is flat. Let's say that I can drive. I can take a boat or a plane and just go into the abyss.
right?
Why would I want to do? Thank
Why-
God the government
Like,
would hide that.
If
That's
that,
horrible.
if that's the thing, you do it.
Yeah, it's like go ahead, be my guest.
It-
Go
I-
to the edge of
One
the
of my
world.
one of my favorite things ever is that there was a Netflix documentary
Where they debunk
where
their
they
own thing.
debunked their own thing.
Yes.
And they didn't
Oh my
believe
God.
it.
Like they put they put two walls. There's there's the camera, a wall, and a beam of light. They're all spaced exactly 17 feet away from each other, and they're like, if our theory's right, we'll be able to see this light.
They were not.
And they didn't see the light. And he's like, and because like if pointing at a level point, it won't be able to shine through both points, right?
Right.
So he's like, now lift the light way above your head. And sure enough, he lifted the light up over his head, and they could see the light. Like, and then they're like, "Huh, something's off here." And see, so I'm not going to say any
it's the
names,
chemicals in the water.
but I used to know someone who knew someone who was a flat earther, and they went up and they pulled two trucks to back and put a level on it, and they're like, so. Based on what you have been telling me, and like they're looking at the horizon with the level, and it's not even like it's a big old like 6 foot level, right? And like they're like up high, like they're on like top of them, like because they're working up there,
Right.
And so they're like, by your theory, if you look down at this level, it'll be touching at the like the horizon will be touching here, and it'll be touching here, and they look down, and sure enough, it's not touching at either corner. And the guy looks down at it. He goes, nope, and walks away.
God, I hate people.
It's like they're like, what is the benefit? Like, what
And
is so
this-
wrong
this
with the
isn't-
world being like a round?
And this isn't like a thing. This has been proven for hundreds of years. Almost 1,000.
Galileo.
Literally, before Galileo.
Before Galileo.
There was people like, wasn't it Pythagoras himself? No, I'm going to get that wrong and I'm going to look so stupid. But there was an actual man, an actual mathematician who looked down a well, figured out the circumference of the earth, and he was like, this thing's pretty big. Must not be flat.
Right, and then like,
It's too big.
what do you like? Christopher
you get
Columbus
high-
thought
if you
the
get high enough
Earth
on-
was round. You know, like,
Dude, like that's a debacle of things I don't want to get into, right? I'm not going to touch Columbus yet. I'm going to save that for a better episode.
but he
Oh
did
my
think the Earth
God.
was round because he thought he could sail all the way around the world and get back to
Yeah,
where he was.
he did.
The only difference is that he was a moron.
Yeah, he was also
Well, it probably
he was a
wasn't even.
mercenary and an idiot.
It probably wasn't even really his idea. He just executed it.
Oh no, I'm
halfway-
sure he
halfway-
was fully like, I can make money this way.
Right. Anyway, back to what you were saying.
So I do have more Nazis.
More Nazis.
More Nazis.
You have more Nazis.
I know you as a person, so I know for the rest of our life you will always have more Nazis.
I actually learned that there's a word for that kind of effect, that somehow in almost any conversation that somehow a Nazi will come up into the conversation.
Like my sister in Grey's Anatomy, yeah.
Yes. But
Shout out to Connor's sister.
but specifically Nazis. And apparently this is a thing enough that people have come up with a term for it. It was used in a Captain America comic not that long ago because
Oh, really?
it was Sam Wilson talking to Steve Rogers, and he was like, you know, it seems like everything you do, somehow Nazis always come back. Can you explain that? Can you explain? You were a walking insert thing. And I was like, oh my God, there's a word to describe me.
There's a word to describe me.
Somehow Nazis come back into the picture, because I guarantee you somehow almost every way you can put Nazis to almost everything. Nazis come up with everything. Star Wars, the bad guys are literally space Nazis. Batman, Joker hates Nazis.
Indiana
That's
Jones.
the thing. Nazis. Literal
Literal
Nazis.
literal Nazis.
He gets an
Literal
autograph
Nazis.
from Hitler. That's the third.
That's the
a
biggest
scene
Chad.
in the third
That's the
movie.
biggest Chad move.
Accidentally bump into Hitler and get his autograph. In
Yeah.
In the journal that leads you to the Holy Grail.
Yeah, that's like the biggest like.
That's a plot point in the movie. That's a thing that I just said.
Right. That was allowed back then.
But speaking of Hitler,
Speaking of Hitler, he never died. He never shot himself.
That's what this started with. And I actually looked further deep into this, and I was like, oh my god. I've just been listening to the wrong sources. I actually read papers, like I should have done in the first place, like a long time ago. So the idea is that it was actually a propaganda campaign from the Soviet Union at first.
That Hitler shot himself?
No.
Oh.
That someone said that they didn't find Hitler's body. That Stalin told Truman, hey, we don't got Hitler's body. And Truman was just like, well, we better go looking for Hitler. Because we couldn't search East Germany because, it's the Soviet Union.
Right.
And, we just kind of have to take their word because what are we going to do? Raid the Soviet Union for Hitler's corpse?
Good luck.
Big freaking country.
There's
Especially
a
at
lot
that
of
time.
people that are way too proud to live there.
Lots of places to hide.
Yeah, there's a lot of places to hide a dead Hitler.
Right.
It makes it even easier when the target doesn't run. Anyway, so the idea was that Hitler's remains were not actually found in his underground Berlin bunker and that he was able to get away and made it to South America. Widely believed that he made it to Argentina or Colombia, often the former Argentina. That was disproven actually in our lifetimes back in about 2018-ish, I believe. So 70 years after the war ended. So in April, I believe, is when the bombings happened, and it was in the following month that April, yeah, it would have been May, I believe. Soviet Union supposedly found his remains and wrote it down and examined it.
They knew it was Hitler.
They were pretty sure it's Hitler, and they didn't say that until way after the war.
Right.
But at this time, people are like, "Hey, where's Hitler? Where's
Could you
his
imagine
remains?"
if Hitler was still alive?
That was my theory for the longest time. But it's like, what does that mean for the world if Hitler did get away? What does that mean? What am I supposed to take
Hitler
away?
wouldn't be alive.
Well, yeah, at this point, yeah, he'd be dead. He would have died in 1960s. That was the theory that he died in 1962. Because, he was born in the 1880s.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, how old was he during World War II?
Oh, jeez.
Let's look it up.
If I'm not mistaken, he was born in 1888? I think that sounds right. I know that Helen Keller was older than him. Let's put it that way.
He was 56 and 45.
There we go.
So he was born...
So the remains of Hitler's body were found by the USSR, and it was Hitler's remains for many decades. No one outside of Russia were allowed to analyze these. So 70 years after the war, French pathologists were finally able to observe the body, the teeth on the body, and I understand it is that I misread something, and my dad also misunderstood something, that we thought that these were his dentist's teeth.
Oh.
Because him and his dentist supposedly looked quite a bit alike, but they, obviously had differing dental records to a certain extent. These dental records matched up to Hitler's hideous mouth. He was notoriously had really bad teeth, and there was the evidence on the teeth found on this corpse suggests that it was a vegetarian person, which matched Hitler's lifestyle.
Okay.
So 70 years after he died, they're pretty sure that they identified Hitler's mangled up, suicided, that sounds bad, corpse, that he did commit suicide and that this was his remains. Which also to me makes it sound like we should put that on display. That's actually kind of remarkable. This is dead Hitler.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of...
Was there a gun?
I want to see Hitler's corpse.
Was there a gunshot in his head?
That's what it made it sound like.
In a skull?
What I was reading didn't really get that much into it, but it was very that he definitely did kill himself and his newlywed wife, Eva Braun.
Kill himself.
Yeah, he definitely didn't make it out of the bombing. Let's put it that way.
Like it could have been staged. There's always that thing too. Like how many suicides have been staged? Like,
well, that's the thing though.
You never know.
How did they get someone whose dental records exactly match?
I'm not saying that body's fake. I'm saying like someone could have killed Hitler and made it look like made it look like a suicide. Especially a man like Hitler. Like,
yeah,
like
imagine your world's literally crashing down. You're dedicated yourself to a 1,000-year plan, and all of a sudden the guy that started that 1,000-year plan is also just sitting there freaking out because the Russians are knocking on your doorstep with a bomb that's the size of your head.
Right.
You'd want to shoot him too. I'm very sure. But yeah, 70 years later, we're pretty sure we found him, and this idea was fed to the East and the West. The Soviet Union, Stalin had a plan called, what was it? Operation Myth. They told the people of the Soviet Union that Hitler got away and that the Western countries were hiding him. That Britain and America were hiding Hitler. They wanted Hitler to come back. That fed ideas outside of the Soviet Union that were like, is Hitler actually alive? Dude, where's Hitler? We don't know where Hitler is. Because the U.S. government actually had FBI agents, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, looking into where is Hitler? And when they couldn't figure out where is Hitler, they subjected the idea that he might have gotten away on one of several submarines that made it to South America. They even came up with ideas, and they were like, that's the reason documents were disclosed and declassified when they discovered that this was Hitler's body, which was also something that I misinterpreted when those documents were originally released. They said that they were pretty sure that Hitler got away. And it was proven Hitler did not get away, and they declassified those documents because they were like, oh, yeah, he didn't get away. So here's these documents that said that we were pretty sure he got away. So we did lie to you for a while. We thought he made it out. But anyway...
We found him.
Where
was he found at, you said?
In his bunker. But the Soviet Union had his corpse for 70 years. And still have him.
That's weird.
What else are you going to do with him? You can't bury Hitler in a nice way.
No, why don't they just, like, send him in space?
Because that's still too cool.
That's
cooler than being buried. I'd want to be sent into space. Hitler doesn't get to be sent into space. We should put it on display.
I can just imagine the room he's being held in. It's like he's laying in the middle of a room. He's laying in the middle of the room on like a pedestal, and there's only fire and like
what they need to do is
hell around him.
Burn him in one of the furnaces at Auschwitz.
That's dang, man.
I mean,
it'd be fair, but it's also it's a 70-year-old decaying corpse kept in a cold Russian room. I mean, the only thing that they could use that.
He was born in '89.
It was '89.
1889.
I was off by
Hitler was.
But like, okay. So, Operation Myth, Stalin was feeding the Soviet Union. In the West, they heard about this, and the bombed areas of Berlin, they couldn't check, so they were all like, show what's going on. This only got worse, the theory that Hitler got away in the West, when Nazis like Adolf Eichmann and Joseph Mengele, were found by Mossad Nazi hunters, which is the Israeli National Intelligence Agency,
right.
And they found... My dad remembers when they found Mengele.
Really?
Because that happened in the 80s.
It did?
Mengele was known as the Angel of Death.
Really?
He would perform mad scientist things on prisoners, if I'm not mistaken, at several concentration camps, especially
like experimentation.
Yes,
like making zombies.
He wanted. I'm sure he wanted to. He is what inspired that idea. But he was very much into the idea of seeing if twins could feel pain to one another.
Okay.
So they'd torture one, and the other was forced to know that something was happening, but they couldn't know exactly and couldn't see them. And he wanted to know if that other twin could feel it, which eventually just led to him just beating the crap out of a bunch of poor people.
Weren't there Nazis that like put a monkey head on another monkey and
they attempted it, and someone did it, and it worked
for like a few seconds.
It was later, and I think it was. I don't know if it was the U.S., but yeah.
Oh, it was outside of the U.S.
We did it. They figured it how to do it, but
they did a monkey head transplant.
But the monkey died later.
I remember talking about that in one episode, and I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
I know I've talked about monkey head transplants. But yeah, so Hitler. He didn't actually get away. Literally a few weeks ago, I was very under the impression that he got away, and I was very distraught. And now I have a better feeling of this world just because I know that Hitler didn't get away.
But yeah, he's
that's
in
your
this
positive moment for the episode.
He's like in a tomb, like with on
just
a pedestal,
hellfire around him.
You know, just hell. Like it looks like if you walk into this place, it looks like what would hell
Kansas.
look like. And like he's just like in the middle of there, like half skeleton, like mostly skeleton.
I don't know what you do with someone's corpse like that, because it's not like it's like someone that people actually like. Well, people did look up to him, but a
lot of people did, which was the weird.
That was the problem.
Yeah,
and it's not like Vladimir Lenin, where it was like, okay, he was a dude. Mm-hmm. He's not as bad as what came after him, Joseph Stalin.
Right.
So like,
careful what you say, man.
Yeah, who's gonna come at me for the Joseph Stalin? I'd like to see someone. Never mind. I don't.
No, you don't.
I don't.
You would not like
that.
that.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to egg that on. But like, it's Hitler.
Right.
It's Adolf Hitler.
It's literally probably one of the worst men in
of
history.
Pop culture evil.
Right.
Like what do you do with that? Do you keep it in a back room? Do you put it on display? You can't really like
hang him by his thumbs.
It's like
for the rest of us.
I don't think he has enough thumbs to be hung by. Is this point? I guess is what I'm saying. It's a decayed body,
Right.
so decayed that it's
We need to move away from
unrecognizable.
Hitler. I
Yeah,
think.
let's move away from Hitler's mangled corpse.
So going back to space. So have you guys heard the conspiracy theory that we were on Mars at one point? Like we
Yes.
lived, like the human race lived on Mars, possibly even started on Mars.
I was gonna say, I knew that you were going back to space. I had a perfect segue for you.
Oh, what was it?
Moon Nazis. Continue.
No. Anyway, so the theory goes is that like we lived on Mars as a human race and we ran it. This is like such a popular like theory. Like I'm not the first person to talk about
John
this.
Carter was based off of it.
Right.
Nah. That's not what John Carter's based on.
He's
He's based on the idea of Martian canals.
Okay.
John Carter was based on the idea that there was life on Mars, and he got sent to Mars and became this gladiator for the Martians.
Okay.
Anyway,
Anyway,
us as a human, like not like Martians, like not like the idea of Martians being like green people, like, but we were Martians at one time, and we came to Earth because we ran Mars into the ground so bad. Like there's polar ice caps on Mars.
Yes.
yeah.
Like, and like, that's just a little bit too like if you put like green and like put some water on Mars, it looked just like Earth, right? Like
To a degree.
like it's a little smaller than Earth, Venus and Earth are kind of like the same size, and Mars is a little smaller than Earth,
Yeah.
and then Mercury is obviously the
you
smallest
wouldn't be able
one.
to live on Venus though.
Yeah,
No,
or
it's like a
Mercury.
nuke planet.
It's bad. If I'm not mistaken, Venus has, I think it's Venus and Mercury. One of them definitely, the surface is constantly hardening and then returning back into liquid because of how hot it is. The crust is constantly
It sounds like
changing.
Mercury because there's like an 8,000 degree difference between the size facing the moon on Mercury. It's probably more than that. I was just saying. The side facing the sun, and then the light and dark side of it.
Yeah.
Like there's like some. Let's look it up. I'm gonna look it up. You
'Cause
talk
if
about
I'm not
this theory.
mistaken, Mercury is also about the same size as the moon, so is Pluto.
And so is Pluto, right?
And it's just all about the relative distance and where things exist in a place. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with the humans. What if we came from Mars? It's an idea that's been around for a long time. It's
Right.
newer than a lot of people think, but lots of people have thought that because they're like, so why is Mars the way it is? And it does originate from that idea of like what Connor mentioned with John Carter. What inspired John
Right.
Carter was the idea of the Martian Canal.
It's
that there was
inspired a lot of
once
different things in
life
pop
there.
culture. Like there's multiple like Martian superheroes, like Martian Manhunter.
Right, the idea of Martians.
Right. It's like or Martians, like Mars Attacks, old
Yeah.
throwback movie. So I have the
I think it was like 1998.
no. Was it really?
I don't remember.
It's still throwback for us. We weren't even born yet.
Yeah, we weren't alive yet.
But people like your dad are gonna be like, "Oh my god, did he just say throwback?" And
I mean,
like throw
yeah.
up in his mouth. Anyway,
It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
872 degrees on the right of like Fahrenheit on the light side of Mercury, and then it's negative 298 degrees Fahrenheit
Because there's no
on
atmosphere.
the light side.
Yeah, the
Right.
atmosphere is so
But like
low.
that's so
Because
crazy.
that's actually a misconception. It does have an atmosphere because it has to have one to be able to keep the kind of mass that it does, and that much mass will have an atmosphere. Like the moon itself also has its own technical gravitational pull and atmosphere to a degree,
Right.
and that's what will keep you drawn to it. Atmosphere is a broad term to describe how much air and gravitational pull something may be held inside near a celestial object.
Right. But like
As I understand it.
Mars, like how weird of an idea that would be to like that we were so advanced at one point that we came to Earth and like restarted.
See, it reminds me a lot of how people talk about Atlantis in a way,
Right.
which that's a different topic.
That's a different theory.
I
That's a
will
different
very
conspiracy
get
theory.
into that one.
Let's get into that one after this.
You sure? There's a lot of details.
Why will
on-
go long time.
Oh yeah, no, because
probably one of my favorite-
It's all BS, and I promise you, because most of it was actually made up in the 1800s.
Okay.
I will get to that later. But like the Martian idea was that I think it's very interesting. But what happened to what brought us here? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like, let's say we believe that. We blind faith believe that. There's still a question of, well, what happened to all the technology?
Well, a lot could happen in a long
Oh
time.
yeah, but that's
Well, yeah.
that's a big deal. Interplanetary travel. interplanetary travel.
Yeah, but like
that is
it
no
takes.
small
How long
feat.
does it take for like metal and plastic to like decompose? Like millions of years, right? Or like
Plastic
hundreds
is like
of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years.
Plastic takes
Metal can degrade
way
over
too
time.
long.
But like
Right,
that
but like
technology, we
but
would
like
still,
imagine if we like the Earth is like 4.2 billion years old, right? Like that's how old Earth is. Like livable, like when like single cell organisms were jumping around. Like
I don't know if it that might you need to look up. I haven't had to think about that since
how
the
old's the
beginning of
Earth?
my geology class.
how old's,
How old is living life on Earth?
How old is living life?
it's probably like 2 point, but like 2 point. A lot could happen like 2.0, like 2 billion
Well, yeah,
years.
That's
And,
a
like,
lot.
That's enough time for plastic to decompose. That's enough time for like rubber to
How
get
long has there been
decomposed.
life on Earth? 3.5 billion years.
A billion.
But that's
With a
life,
B.
like
But like
cells.
right, but then like how long ago was 35 million years ago was the dinosaurs, right?
I think the least was 65
65?
65 million years ago.
dinosaurs were the aliens?
Well, that's what my question comes down to. No matter what angle you bring it to, there's always a problem, and there's not a good way to explain
My
it.
thing is that like if this is true, like there's been enough time for all that stuff to go bye. Cuz like in
But
another
the Earth's crust has changed 4 or 5 times within there, and that's an under exaggeration.
right, and Wyatt, we know like more about the surface of the moon than we do about our own oceans. Like what is at the bottom of that? You know? Like
We do have a pretty good idea what's at the bottom of the ocean. It's actually fish turds and skeletons.
but like what if there's just something sitting down there that we haven't discovered yet? Or like under all the fish turds and skeletons? Like
that comes down to a problem of we can't really scan it or touch it because if we touch it, it will all disperse. That was
Right.
actually a really interesting thing in my geology class. It's so loose that some of the creatures that live down there, there's these 3-pronged fish that simply like graze on top of it and walk, kind of. But if they were to touch it, like let's say if you went down there
and just
took
touched
your
it with your finger.
and poked it, you would get such a massive cloud of. It's basically poop. It's basically all poop. But it's like imagine poop that has been digested 5 times over, so it is colorless and basically bone poop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the very bottom of the ocean floor is. Besides a few like trash candy wrappers. And
Speaking of the bottom of the ocean, there's the theory that the megalodon is down there, which I think is highly.
yeah, that's one that
You know,
like
that's
people-
something that
people
I
are-
don't get.
There's people that are like they like a conspiracy, and people are like they don't want you to know it's alive, and it's like what do they gain from
You know
that?
how much
What
a
do they
dietary
gain?
You know how dangerous that would be if somebody found that accidentally?
and
Like,
then but you know
it's big enough to not even think about that it ate you.
right. And then another thing is that like you know how much dietary changes, how much lifestyle changes that shark would
Right.
need to make to live at the bottom of the Mariana Trench?
It couldn't live down there.
There's nothing big enough down there to feed it.
It would have to hunt whales,
Blue whales,
blue whales.
the biggest creature.
This isn't something that you could simply deal with.
Exactly.
Right.
There's large sharks that live at very low depths, but there's nothing the size of a megalodon.
Yeah.
No, and like I think a blue whale is still bigger than a megalodon.
I'll be honest, I can't remember how.
But
big a
like, cause like
megalodon
I
gets.
watched this video about
God.
I watched this video about blue whales. It's like this video documentary on YouTube that like blue whales aren't just the biggest animal that live right now. They're like the biggest animal pound for pound that have lived ever.
Is that? I believe that.
Like-
because it's also in the water.
Because
so
like
it's
if
able
you
to
think about
support
like
itself easier.
Brachiosaurus, like yeah, they were really tall and like massive, but like I still think blue whales weighed more than
I
like
believe that because Brachiosaurus relatively, we believe that they would have came on land or helped support themselves by walking. And a blue whale was like
Megalodon is
made to
apparently
swim.
between 15 and 16 meters in length, 3 times longer
15,
than the
16.
largest recorded shark.
Multiply that by 3.3.
what did he say? 14.
15 to 16.
15 to 18
15 to 18. So
meters in length.
times 3.3. You said meters, right?
Yeah, meters.
So yeah, multiply that by 3.3 and you got it in feet. It's big.
Let's just do the 18 since that's like the biggest.
Right. Just for like let's say that's how big it is hiding.
59 feet.
Yeah. That's
Like the biggest. What's Connor? Look up what the biggest great white shark ever recorded was, and then I'm gonna look
it's
up.
large, but it's
I'm gonna
nothing.
look up what the biggest blue whale ever recorded was.
If you look at all these apex creatures that have existed, like
20 feet long.
crocodilians and sharks. They've only gotten smaller because their diets change.
20 foot.
20 foot long.
So over
2.5
double the
tons.
size of the biggest great white ever recorded.
2.5 tons. I don't know if that's in metric.
The biggest blue whale ever recorded, 110 foot and 17 inches. So
That's amazing in a way. Just
what's that? Like
getting to see one of those.
110 feet.
110 feet.
That's huge, guys.
It's
like
massive. It's
like,
massive.
You can't even fathom like how big that is without like being next to it. Like, because we could be like, oh my god, 110 feet, holy crap.
Yeah,
no,
it's,
you're
it's
not. You
really
don't
easy
fathom.
to say something. It's like, oh, it's as big as a school bus. That's bigger than a school bus.
That's like 18 school buses.
Yeah, you are now past a point where it's like, oh, that's such a.
That's so unfathomably big. That's what she said.
I think 100 square foot space. That's huge. That's a big space.
Right. So,
And-
like, one of my favorite things is when people talk
That's
about,
like a warehouse.
Yeah.
like when people talk about volcanoes,
Mm-hmm.
no one ever processes how truly terrifying a volcano is because you don't need to.
Right.
You don't need to think about how scary a volcano is because it's not in your evolution.
Mm-hmm.
You can think about how scary it is to, like, let's say you met an angry elephant.
Right.
That's terrifying. But you also wouldn't need to think about that if you met an upset blue whale.
If
'Cause
you
you
met,
probably aren't.
you probably wouldn't be alive for very long. But blue whales, something about blue whales is the reason they're so big is that they're not, like, they're predatory and they eat meat, but like they eat krill. It's not
Yeah.
like they're hunting because they're too big to like and slow to keep up with like something smaller than it to eat.
Right. It's large enough to the point that hunting in a traditional sense is almost useless.
Right. It was like this nature documentary that I was watching, and like they got to see like blue whale, or like, it wasn't blue whales, but it was like sperm whales or some. No, it might have been blue whales, but like they got to see it like attack in quotation marks this massive school of krill, or like, and like the krill is like there's so much and it's so dense it's a cloud.
Didn't it get like all of it?
Well, it got like it just went through there with its mouth wide open, and like
Collected it.
they said, like, you know how much water a blue whale can hold in its mouth?
I was going to say, isn't its heart big enough to basically be like a McDonald's play
A
bag?
horse could stand up in it,
Yeah.
like straight in it, like.
It's like you could make a house out of that.
Well, and then like,
And sleep in it comfortably. But yeah, these are some of the things that like we're getting further and further from like these conspiracy theories and stuff. But like this is like a lot of things that people don't think about, like when our own, like, some of these things are, for lack of a better way of saying it, people always think of these grandiose schemes like we're talking about unfathomably big. That's the perfect way to describe some of these conspiracy theories. Because how are you going to hide something that is that big?
right,
Like the U.S. government could hide, like, 1,000 Nazis. That's nothing. 1,000 fake IDs. Big whoop. The U.S. government, big deal.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but 13,208 gallons of water.
It's
In the
so
mouth.
much that you can't fathom it.
No, you will never be able to. You probably like that's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. We're getting kind of far off of these conspiracy theories.
We're getting
conspiracy
far away from it.
theories.
Yeah. But
Right.
like, I have a few more if you want me to just rattle off some, or if you
Go
want to
for
start
it.
a new
we,
one.
we got about 15 minutes left.
15 minutes left.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
But I've got, like, here, I'll just read off my last main points. I have satanic panic, aliens, musicians, and one historical one that I actually get heated about.
What?
Meriwether Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of people say that he committed suicide.
Like Meriwether Lewis, like the
Lewis and Clark.
Why?
Yeah. Well,
What?
because they found his dead body and a gun.
Oh.
But my problem with that is,
Plot twist: Clark shot him so he can have all the
this
glory.
was way after they went their
Yeah.
separate ways. I think Clark.
I
might have
know,
died.
I was just
Did he
making
die
a joke.
I don't remember. But Meriwether Lewis was found, if I'm not mistaken, he was like staying somewhere. He was writing in his journal, and they heard gunshots. Nobody really thought about it, and they checked on him on the next morning, and he was found.
No one
dead.
really thought about it.
Nobody really thought about it.
Who was thinking about it? This was like
It's
before
the
the Wild West.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah,
no one
yeah.
cared.
Early 1800s. Like, it was after his presidency, but this was literally when Jefferson was president, technically.
Yeah.
And it's like, he was writing in his journal, and then all of a sudden, dead. If I'm not mistaken, there might have been a suicide note, but I can't remember that detail. But my problem always came to be, he shot himself in the chest, quote unquote.
Why would you?
Why would you do that?
with a like ball powder.
Right.
He was not a dumb guy. He's not gonna, because there was 2 shot wounds, one in the head, one in the chest. The one in the chest is believed to be unsuccessful, so he then shot himself in the head.
You'd have had to reload
You
your
shoot
gun.
yourself in the chest, and then you take 5 minutes to reload your gun to just shoot yourself in the head.
Right.
That doesn't sound very plausible.
It doesn't sound very.
That wouldn't hold up in court.
Doesn't sound comfortable. Let's say you shoot yourself in the chest. You're probably just gonna wait until you pass out from shock, especially one of those. You just shot a metal ball at point blank.
That's a 50 caliber ball.
Yeah,
Like
if it was a 50 caliber, you could get smaller technically.
But like the smallest ball you can get was like a 44 still.
Still,
But it wasn't very common.
right.
Just like the standard
Well,
ammunition
50 was
like
more like the size for like rifle,
rifles,
though, in a way.
yeah.
So this was a little shorter than your standard rifle, because even
Right.
if you think about the way you'd have to position it to try and shoot yourself in the chest, no matter how you try to plan to do it, it's not very viable. That's the part that I've always had a problem with. No matter what weapon he has in his hands, you can look at the gun that he is said to use to kill himself with. It's not a long gun, but go ahead and try pointing that at your own chest and then trying to fire it. You are not going to have a good time. I've not got to finish the rest of that part of that thought, but like I very deeply believe that he was murdered. I don't know why he was murdered, other than the fact that some dude probably was just like, "I'm gonna take your things," and he said, "No, you're not." And he was like, "Guess what?
You're
Blam."
dead. Bam.
And he was like, "Oh, you shot me in the chest. I am in such pain." Jim, get the other gun. It's like,
Or picked up the gun that
and
Lewis
reloaded
had.
it. Yeah, like the twist, he did try to kill himself, and then another person busts in, and he was like, "I'm gonna kill you." It's like, okay.
Oh, plot twist.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, shoots dead body.
Who's Grinder? Like it's a woman. Her last name Grinder. It said called Grinder Stand. Oh, it was a inn that he was staying at when he died.
Okay.
So people were apparently the innkeep Miss Grinder was acting strange when he died. I looked that up. So
He was murdered. I deeply
Yeah.
believe that he was murdered. You know who else I think was murdered? It's a good segue. We
Kurt-
started at
Kurt
Nazis.
Cobain.
Kurt Cobain. We finally went all the way from Nazis to Kurt Cobain.
Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain.
Full circle.
It's finally. We'll find a way to see where he
Wait,
comes.
is Courtney Love still alive?
Oh yeah, she's
Okay.
definitely alive. I feel like we would know if she was dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I deeply believe, because I think the story goes that she was fooling around with, the bodyguard, and Kurt Cobain, he didn't want to be famous.
Yeah.
He only said that he'd fake his death and run away to Canada, and he would work at a McDonald's if he had to, just to get away from fame.
Yeah.
But Courtney Love loved fame. She
Right.
loved everything that brought with it.
Yeah.
Everything about it was her favorite thing. But Kurt wanted out. So what do? Yep, she just murdered him. I really do think that that's what happened.
Because,
do I-
like-
what
Or
I
got
believe-
someone to murder
I
him.
mean, because
Yeah.
the shotgun he used
and the angles.
and the angle.
It looks much more like a murder scene than it does a suicide.
Exactly.
Because, would I believe it if he killed himself? I would. But, the pictures I've seen of the actual crime scene.
Didn't Family Guy do a bit about that?
Yeah, and then Stewie saves him from suicide by giving him Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
And
Right,
then
and then
it's
he's fat
real-
in the future, and
Yeah.
okay. I thought I was like, didn't Family Guy do a bit on this? But what hasn't Family Guy done a bit about?
Pretty much.
So
When in doubt, offer someone ice cream is the moral of the story.
right,
That's
don't do it. Have some Haagen-Dazs.
if you take anything away from this show, whoever, listener, dear viewer, if you have any worries about someone in your life, offer them ice cream.
Or if you're having worries,
Go
message
get
one of
yourself ice
us, and we will bring you ice cream.
We will come with ice cream. Ice cream is a level point that almost everyone can agree on that they like.
unless you're
they'll like-
lactose intolerant.
Yeah, unless you're lactose intolerant.
People that have lactose intolerance right now, they're like, God dang it,
I don't know what to do. But there's
soy.
there's lactose-free ice cream.
Right.
And if you ever have a problem, I would regret spending my money on that, but I won't regret spending my money on you. Just be
Anyway.
tolerant of lactose.
Just be tolerant of lactose.
Have better genetics.
I'm looking over at Connor right now.
Yeah, what do you want to say after sitting through Nazis to Meriwether Lewis to Megalodons
Meriwether
to
Lewis,
the moon?
I feel like he definitely did not kill himself. Kurt Cobain, I mean,
It's believable that he would.
Yeah, it's like he was obviously very depressed with the situation,
Right.
but he also had just have a kid.
Yeah, I think at that point, yeah, his daughter was already alive.
Yeah, so I don't know. She would have had to be.
That's true because she's yeah.
Well, no, you could die before your kid's born.
Before they're
That's
born.
true, but
we don't know how old she was. We'll put it
Right.
that way.
Okay.
Months to a year
very
to
young.
3 months, 3 weeks. It could be anywhere from like minutes, literal minutes. But yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. We're going to touch this subject again one day.
This is a part 1 video.
True believers. Oh yeah,
True believers.
true believers.
You have down aliens written down.
Yeah,
And that's one that, like, if you don't believe
She
in
was 2
aliens,
years old.
She was 2.
Yeah.
if you people who don't believe in aliens to me are the people that really don't know how big the universe is.
Right. To say that we are the only life in the universe,
That's ridiculous.
it's depressing.
We
how
will probably
depressing
never
is that?
See the other life in the
And not in
universe.
our lifetime.
No, definitely not in our lifetime.
Maybe probably as the human the human species.
If we don't kill each other yet.
right.
Yeah, we might see other life out there.
Like
Maybe.
maybe our 8-10 times great grandchildren.
Yeah. And with the James Webb that we send into space, maybe we'll find evidence of other life.
Right.
It would be like looking at another planet's dinosaurs, but that's still something in my book.
Well, see, we haven't even found another planet that we can go to.
Theoretically, we've found planets that could possibly be that way, but we're also seeing them from light years away.
Right.
So we're
So
seeing
they're
an
like-
interpretation of them that we don't know if they're still hospitable, if they're even still
That's
exist.
crazy to think about, you know?
Oh, yeah. Imagine like another alien civilization looking at us, and depending on the distance, they're not seeing us.
Do you think
They're
that
seeing
aliens have...
dinosaurs.
Right. That's crazy.
They would be light years away. They would be looking at dinosaurs beating each other up in the grand.
Be like, oh, let's not go there.
They'd be like, man, this place is a backwater planet if I've ever seen one. They haven't even evolved.
Right. And if there's a species out there who's like invented like a hyper speed in quotation mark, like something that they could travel at the speed of light in, you know,
whenever they get
or faster.
Well, they'd have to take into account the fact that if they ever want to go back home, they'd
Right.
have to like use time travel or something.
Right.
Because
Well, to a
relativity-
theoretical sense of relativity, like we see in, what was the movie? It was Nolan. Interstellar. Time changes, obviously.
Yeah.
But let's say they are going at a light speed or even faster than light speed. It would take forever. Things would obviously change. But let's say, theoretically, they mastered the idea of the concept of the Tesseract and are able to fold a universe in half of itself and travel through 2 endpoints.
Right.
Nothing matters at that point. Reality is your bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Or like
traveling through reality is
or the way like
that's going to be our first T-shirt, mind
the
you.
ships work and like they go through portal, like they open like dimensional rifts.
Which one are we talking about?
That's like the Guardians of the Galaxy ship.
Oh, the way they open up the points that go across the...
There's a point right here. It's like I think it's like a dimensional crack or rift or something that like can.
It's a they in the movies, the Marvel movies, the way they coordinate between like jump points. I think that might be. What
I don't
they
think
call them. I don't
they
remember
would
what
be
they call them.
hexagonal though.
No,
in real life.
They probably. I don't even know if we'd be able to perceive their shape.
Yeah.
But they bounce through points at like here's A, here's B, and here's C. You're bouncing through D to B because it's faster than going through A to C or straight to B.
Right.
It's random jump points, and you have to take them at a certain speed, or else reality will start to warp around
Right.
you.
And
You see that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Right.
3 doesn't exist yet.
Yet.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be ready.
That's so crazy. But like if, like you're saying, like if there's been someone that like has like is so technologically advanced or found like a universal relic, and that can like travel from point A to point B within a second, and that be literally cross universes, like
It would be absolutely.
Or if
insane.
some people like the Asgardians exist and like have their way of
like
traveling through the Bifrost,
the full rainbow bridge, just fire a person across the
right? But like a version of that, not that, but like
right, not the
because
exact
like
thing,
we come
but-
to find out like at least like in the Marvel universe, like even in the like that's just a form of technology.
yeah,
It's
like it's like a bunch of alien species are like, okay, what do you want?
right.
And then Earth is just like, we built teleporter
We built secret tunnel.
through the
The
mountain.
mountains, secret tunnel.
But like I don't know. It's possible that we've been visited. I think.
I think there's definitely things like it wasn't that long ago that it was the U.S. government that declassified some documents, and they were like, we don't know what this crap is, and people are like, it's government technology from another place, like from China, and it's like the rumor about China underground. I shouldn't say underground like that. That makes it sound like I'm above everybody. I'm not. Obviously, I'm just some schmuck from the middle of Missouri or the west side of Missouri.
Right.
But like, there's this thing that people say that like China boasts that they're, oh, we're better than you, and it's like they're 7 years behind us in technology, and the U.S. government's always ahead of everybody because they got the money and the willpower.
And then there's North Korea.
yeah, North Korea's just trotting
They're
in the back.
special. They're special.
It's like
little
me running the
things.
mile in middle school, and I'm all the way in the back. There's a few people behind me, and they're doing worse, but it's because they don't care.
They have missiles full of
That's how I
water.
used to pace myself. You know. I don't know if I ever told you this.
That like at least you're not in the back.
No, it's like I just got to stay in front of Wyatt this whole
That
time.
works.
Seriously?
Well,
Because
it
Wyatt,
makes
Wyatt would usually walk, and like he'd get like 10 minutes. Like that would be like,
Oh yeah, no. I
like a
would
10-minute
complete it.
mile walking isn't bad.
The gym
but-
teachers hated it,
But like me,
works.
I was like, if I just jog, and I'm in front of Wyatt, I'm gonna be under 10 minutes for this mile.
and
so.
the gym teachers won't yell at you.
right?
And
So-
like they can yell at me all they want.
and like
I'm not. I don't care.
I think the fastest mile I ever ran, and it was like the peak of my physical being. I could not run this fast now, and I've like it's been like, but it was like 7 minutes.
Running's overrated.
Right. And that
People
was
talk
back when I
about
was-
runner's high. I don't think that's
That was
a thing
back
in
when
my
I was
genetic
in
makeup.
football and band at the same time, and I
Yeah.
was
and all that cocaine you did,
and all that cocaine I did and the steroids.
dude. Wild time. High school
Wild.
was weird.
It's like we
High
went to school
school's
in the
radical,
80s.
dude.
We are not actually young. We went to school in the 80s.
Wow.
We're not actual real concepts. I was
We
brought
are.
here.
Conspiracy
Figment
theory:
here.
time sweeps people aren't real.
We are figments of your imagination.
We are a figment of your.
We should just delete the
imagination.
channel one day on like
just randomly.
like just to be like we never
should
existed.
just
What are you
do this
talking
on-
about?
we
Time
just
sleep?
doing this
YouTube
honest
channel.
this shit.
Like everyone we know personally, like delete everything that
Or
has
just
anything
private
to do
it so
with
they
it.
can't find it. So we
And
can
we're
like,
just like, what do
that'd
you
be a fun April Fool's joke.
private everything?
Private everything so they can't even find our channel.
And then they're just like, didn't you guys have? What do you mean YouTube
What do you,
channel?
what's a YouTube channel?
We never had a podcast. Time sweeps.
That's a good name for a podcast. We
Yeah,
might do that.
We like that. That's not bad.
We have to do it though, like way later. So
Oh
after
yeah,
everyone,
it would have
after
to be
everyone
way
forget-
after this.
because everyone's gonna be like, oh, they said they were gonna do this.
I'm thinking it'd be funny if we just had an hour-long silent video. Once again, that's only funnier though if we have like a larger viewer base than like 35 people.
Right.
Yeah.
47 subscribers as of right now.
And on that note of 47 subscribers, we are out of time for this week's episode
Invite
of the
your
podcast.
friends. We need 3 to get the 50.
Wait, 49?
47.
47. We need 12 to get to the prime number.
The prime number.
The prime number.
And
You
on
heard him. Get on it.
and on that
Invite your
note,
friends.
share
Make
with
Cobain.
share with 5 of your friends. Say that if you don't watch this video, you'll have bad luck for 5 years.
It's true. I will come
We
to your house
are
and make
the
sure of it.
proverbial black cat walking under the ladder.
I'm going to put ladders.
Breaking the mirror as we do
I'm
it.
going to make it
Yes.
so that way every time you do something, an umbrella opens, salt will be spilt. I will make sure that you
you're
have
taking
the
this way-
ultimate
you're-
bad luck.
You're taking this way
You'll-
too far.
you will-
Anyway, on
you'll-
that note of
you'll
bad luck,
crack your driveway.
on that note of bad luck, we are out of time for
Cracks
this week's
in the
episode. Thank you all
driveway.
so much for
The Chinese
joining
are
us
moving
this week.
in.
I will throw something at you. Thank
Go
you all.
ahead.
Oh my gosh.
Secret word this week. It is going to be Nirvana.
Nirvana. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us this week on this week's episode of Time Sweeps. Make sure to leave a like if you haven't already. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And when you press that little subscribe button, it'll turn white and the little bell icon will appear next to it. And you should click that bell because it really helps us out. Make sure to go down and comment Wyatt's secret word for us because that also helps us out in this algorithm that we call YouTube. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.